There's a grass field in Houston, Texas, sitting between two highways. No rides, no lines, no screaming kids. Just a parking lot, where a beloved theme park used to be. 8 teenagers walked into a haunted house in New Jersey and never walked out. A park in New Orleans drowned and sat abandoned for 19 years. And a company that started with one genuinely brilliant idea in 1961 borrowed and burned and collapsed twice. This is Six Flags, one of the most iconic names in American entertainment. And this is the full story of how it fell apart. In 1961, a man named Angus Wynn opened a theme park in Arlington, Texas, and called it Six Flags Over Texas. The name came from the Six Flags that had flown over the state: Spain, France, Mexico, the Republic of Texas, the Confederacy, and the United States. His wife Joanne, actually, is the one credited with the final name. When Wynn originally proposed calling it Texas Under Six Flags, she reportedly pointed out, calmly but firmly, that Texas hadn't been under anything. Fair point. The park was built on a genuinely smart idea. Take what Disneyland was doing on the coast and bring it to families who could drive there. One admission price, no nickel and dime ride tickets, a full day of entertainment close to home. It worked. A second park opened in Georgia in 1967, then St. Louis. Through the 1960s and 70s, Six Flags made sense. Regional parks near dense population centers, consistent enough to build a loyal annual pass audience. The company changed hands several times over the decades, eventually landing at Time Warner, which spun the parks off in 1998. And this is where the story starts to tilt. A smaller operator called Premier Parks absorbed the Six Flags brand and immediately began buying everything in sight. Between 1998 and 2001, roughly 4 years, the company acquired 31 parks. 31. Parks scattered across the United States, Europe, and beyond. The logic was scale. A bigger network meant bigger sponsorship deals, and a brand large enough to go toe-to-toe with Disney on a regional level. What it actually produced was a debt load that kept climbing, attendance at many acquired parks that remained underwhelming, and a company stretched so thin it couldn't give real attention to any individual property. Analysts would later describe it simply as mania, a company that had taken on generally weak amusement park properties it just couldn't generate value from. By the first half of 2003, Six Flags was losing $122 million every 6 months. Debt climbed to roughly $2.4 billion against assets of around $3 billion, a structure with almost no margin and zero tolerance for any external shock. September 11th delivered the first one, cutting theme park attendance across the entire industry at the exact moment Six Flags could least absorb it. The European parks were sold off between 2003 and 2004. The proceeds weren't enough. Washington Redskins owner Daniel Snyder, who became chairman in 2005, tried restructuring and cost-cutting. That wasn't enough either. In April 2009, Six Flags stock was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. On June 13, 2009, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $2.7 billion in debt. Management assured customers that all parks would stay open through the summer season, the most important PR move of the entire process. On May 3, 2010, Six Flags emerged from bankruptcy. Lenders took 92% of the company in exchange for canceling $1.13 billion in debt. The old shareholders were wiped out. The new company relocated to Grand Prairie, Texas, and started the considerably less glamorous work of actually running a theme park company that had to make money. And honestly, be honest, did any of us who had season passes really understand just how close the whole thing was to vanishing? Drop a comment. I want to know. Now here's where things get personal, because some of the real damage didn't show up in a bankruptcy filing. It showed up in a grass field. Astroworld, Houston, Texas. The park opened June 1, 1968, as part of the sprawling Astrodomain complex developed by Roy Hofheinz, the former Houston mayor who also built the Astrodome. Hofheinz had final approval over details of the park's design and used rare antiques from his personal collection to enhance the theming. The park even featured 2,400 tons of outdoor air conditioning. underground pipes carrying chilled water to queue lines, picnic areas, and retail zones across the entire park, with the ducks disguised to blend into the surroundings. In Houston's subtropical heat in 1968, that was not a small thing. Six Flags acquired the park in 1975 and expanded it through the following 3 decades. At its best, Astroworld was genuinely beloved. The Texas Cyclone, a wooden roller coaster modeled on the legendary Coney Island Cyclone, was considered one of the finest wooden coasters in the entire American South. Thunder River, which opened in 1980, was widely recognized as the world's first successful commercial river rapids ride, the kind where guests sit in circular rafts and float through man-made rapids, and was copied by parks across the country and internationally within years. By the early 2000s, Astroworld was ranked between 36th and 39th globally in annual attendance. Still substantial, still viable, consistent with a mid-tier regional park serving one of the largest cities in the United States. The park wasn't dying. It was operating exactly where you'd expect it to operate. But in 2004, a contractual arrangement that had allowed Six Flags visitors to park at the neighboring Reliance Stadium expired, and the company's attempts to renew it failed. Without accessible parking, the park became functionally difficult to reach for a large portion of its audience. On September 12, 2005, Six Flags announced Astroworld would close permanently at the end of that season. The CFO cited the expired parking arrangement as a contributing factor. CEO Kieran Burke later acknowledged in 2014 that substantial offers pouring in for the land made closing financially compelling. The 104-acre property in the inner loop of Houston had become more valuable as real estate than as a theme park. The land sold in June 2006 for $77 million. The final day, October 30th, 2005, drew massive crowds. Houstonians who had grown up at the park showed up to ride the rides one last time. Some brought their kids, some cried. The Texas Cyclone ran until it was done running. The rides were auctioned in January and February of 2006 and dispersed to parks across the country. The Texas Cyclone was demolished. There was no buyer, no practical way to move a wooden roller coaster of that size. Gone. The land sold for $77 million was never developed. A deal for luxury condominiums fell through. A subsequent proposal stalled. Nothing was ever built. It became overflow parking for events at a neighboring venue. That is the complete return on investment for a city and the generations of families who spent their summers there. Travis Scott, who grew up in Houston, named his 2018 studio album Astroworld in tribute. He told XXL, "They took Astroworld away from us in Houston." The album debuted at #1. The grass field remains. But before the closures, before the bankruptcy, there was a night in New Jersey that left a mark that will never fully fade. May 11th, 1984. Six Flags, Great Adventure, Jackson Township. Approximately 29 people were inside the haunted castle, a walkthrough attraction built from 17 linked semi-trailers with a fake castle facade bolted to the outside. Narrow corridors, flammable decorations, costumed employees, foam rubber on the walls, plywood framing, paper and fabric decorations, a very large box of kindling. Because the attraction was built on connected trailers, it was technically classified as a temporary structure, meaning it wasn't subject to the same building codes as permanent attractions. No building permit had been issued for its construction. No certificate of occupancy had ever been obtained. The attraction had been operating for 6 years. No working smoke detectors, no fire sprinklers. Safety consultants had documented their warnings. The prosecution would later place those written warnings in front of a jury. The park had chosen not to reinstall smoke alarms. After vandalism problems in 1979, 5 years before the fire, at 6:35 p.m., a 14-year-old, whose identity has never been publicly released, used a cigarette lighter to see down a darkened corridor where a strobe light had malfunctioned. The lighter touched a foam rubber wall pad. The foam caught. The fire spread within seconds, fed by the ventilation from the air conditioning system. From outside, witnesses described smoke rising, and then flames leaping 100 feet into the air. Most visitors made it out. One group of 9 teenagers did not. 8 of them, ranging in age from 15 to 19, were found in a corridor near what they believed was an exit. It was a closet door. Disoriented by smoke and darkness, they had followed the wrong passageway. All 8 died from carbon monoxide poisoning and smoke inhalation. They were so badly burned that firefighters initially believed the figures they found were mannequins. Their names were Jose Carrion Jr., Eric Rodriguez, Lenny Ruiz, Samuel Valentin Jr., Christopher Harrison, Nicola Cayazza, Suzette Elliott, and Tina Genovese. 5 of them had been students at Franklin K. Lane High School in New York City. Suzette Elliott and Tina Genovese had won their trip to the park by collecting Campbell's soup can labels at their school, a prize from a school fundraiser. They were all within 25 feet of a fire exit when they died. Six Flags. Great Adventure and its parent company were indicted on charges of aggravated manslaughter. After an 8-week trial and 13 hours of deliberation, the jury acquitted both companies, finding in part that the regulatory gap created by the temporary structure. Classification had distributed responsibility in ways that made criminal culpability difficult to assign. After the verdict, the president of Six Flags Corporation said the company believed it had been in compliance with all applicable codes and had taken the necessary steps to protect the public. 7 of the 8 families settled civil suits for $2.5 million each. The 8th family went to trial and was awarded $750,000. The park remained open that same evening. The Dutch rock band Golden Earring performed as scheduled. New Jersey passed new fire safety laws for dark ride attractions in the aftermath. Other states followed. The regulatory gap that allowed the haunted castle to exist without sprinklers or working smoke alarms was permanently closed. This is the part most people don't know, and the part that should sit with you. When Six Flags emerged from bankruptcy in 2010, the strategy was straightforward. Cut costs, reduce debt, invest in what was working, stop trying to be everything to everyone. Under CEO Jim Reed Anderson, long-term debt dropped from $2.5 billion in 2007 to around $918 million by 2012. For a few years, Six Flags genuinely looked like a textbook corporate turnaround. Then the company leaned hard into international licensing, particularly in China, partnering with a real estate developer called Riverside Investment Group to build 11 parks across Chinese cities. Revenue from licensing fees was being baked into financial projections before a single park had opened. On January 10, 2020, Six Flags disclosed that Riverside had defaulted on its payment obligations. The announcement triggered a 19% single-day stock drop, its lowest level in 5 years. By February 2020, all Chinese projects were formally terminated. Six Flags walked away with losses, write-downs, a class action lawsuit from investors, and nothing else. Then COVID-19 closed every park in the portfolio in spring 2020. Roller coasters don't generate revenue when nobody's allowed to ride them. By the end of the pandemic disruption, Six Flags' balance sheet had deteriorated to the point where management was exploring, in the corporate euphemism, strategic alternatives. In November 2023, Cedar Fair, Six Flags' biggest domestic competitor, announced a merger. Cedar Fair's shareholders ended up with a 51.2% controlling stake. Cedar Fair's CEO, Richard Zimmerman, became CEO of the combined company. The merger closed July 1, 2024. The independent Six Flags, the one that started in Texas in 1961, effectively ceased to exist. As of early 2025, the combined company carried $5.25 billion in long-term debt. The ride is still going, and the closures kept coming. Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville closed during the 2009 bankruptcy proceedings. It sat dark for 5 years. It reopened in 2014 under completely new ownership, people who actually wanted to run a theme park, and operates today as an independent regional park. Six Flags America, serving the Washington, D.C. Baltimore corridor for over 35 years, closed permanently on November 2, 2025, announced with a single press release stating the park was not a strategic fit with the company's long-term growth plan. That's the phrase, not a strategic fit. For a family that cannot afford a week at Disney World, and most families cannot, a regional Six Flags wasn't a luxury. It was the vacation they actually took, the summer they actually had, the ride they actually remember. When the economics stopped working, those families were not considered with particular care in the financial calculus. The debt outlasted the parks it was supposed to fund. A company that started with one genuinely good idea in Texas in 1961. 8 teenagers who didn't make it out of a haunted house classified as temporary for 6 years to avoid building codes. 2 cities still waiting for something to fill the spaces left behind. One company now carrying $5.25 billion in combined debt and closing more parks. And a grass field in Houston where children used to scream on roller coasters. That's where we are. If this kind of storytelling is the reason you came here, hit that like button right now. It helps more than you think. If you made it this far, you already know this story deserved to be told properly. Like means we'll keep doing exactly that. These aren't just corporate history footnotes. For the workers who staffed these parks and the families who drove the same highway exit every July for 20 years, each closure was something concrete being removed from their lives. If you want more stories told this way, subscribe and drop the park you grew up going to in the comments. We read every one.